what the mandate of this committee is. We have given honorable members copies of the rules book, and that will be Rule 193 that I wish to focus on, which says that the Rules Committee may develop and formulate policy proposals concerning the exclusive business of the Assembly in respect of proceedings, procedures, rules, orders, practices concerning the business of the Assembly, monitor and oversee the implementation of policy, make recommendations to the Rules Committee, Joint Rules Committee, lay down guidelines and issue directives regarding any aspect of policy referred to in the rules. It also has the power to appoint subcommittees. So we are here today for this committee to perform some of its functions, which includes the setting up of structures. So the first one that we are dealing with is the composition of committees. And honorable members should be aware what the functions of committees are, that portfolio committees, they are referred to as the engines of Parliament. That is where a lot of scrutiny, a lot of oversight happens over executive action. And they are usually arranged such that they correspond to government departments or with government departments. Now, in the last Parliament, the size of our committees was each committee had 11 members, portfolio committee, and the composition was ANC 6, DA 2, EFF 1, and other parties 2. Members will be aware that the number of parties has now increased. And therefore, we are proposing that the size of committees also be increased, or the composition of committees be increased. In that regard, we are proposing that the number be increased to 15 members from 11, and that the ANC will then have 5 in that, the DA 3, MK 2, EFF 1, and other parties 4, other parties combined 4. In regard to configuration, as Madam Speaker has indicated, we are not proposing that we venture into that space at the moment until Cabinet is appointed. So for now, we recommend that we focus on the composition of committees. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll pause there.
Thank you very much, Mr. Klaso. Are there any questions for clarity or comments from members? Honorable Swart.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you for that input. In previous parliaments, there was an indication as to how many committees a member could serve on. Will that convention be followed, given the fact that there are a large number of smaller parties that would need to spread themselves quite thinly? And I'd just like that to be also taken into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other proposal, question for clarity or addition? There being none, I take it that we agree with the proposal. Nhlamulo is like you're hesitating to raise your hand. Oh. I don't think he had enough sleep, Unkwankwa. I heard him yawning also from where I sit. Thank you. I'll take Honorable Frolick and then Honorable Swart.
No, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Good afternoon to the colleagues. Just on the matter that the Honorable Swart has raised in terms of participation of members in different portfolio committees, there's never been a restriction. Because even if you are not a full-time member on a committee, you may attend any committee meeting, but when it comes to voting, of course, you will not have a vote. In terms of the grouping of smaller parties, it's up to the smaller parties to decide. on which committees they want permanent membership or not, and it's something that they usually sort out amongst themselves and inform the office of the Speaker accordingly. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. I will ask Honorable, I'm trying to remember now the name. Mhlangwini, yeah. And then followed by Honorable Nkwangwa. I thought, Hlengo, you'll be kind to me that I'm wearing red, you know. Honorable Mhlangwini.
It's nearly, it's gonna be almost 15 years as a speaker. How can you forget my name? But nevertheless, I just like to check, Mr. Tato, what is the rationale on getting to 15? And how did you get to the ANC getting 5 and the other parties getting the amounts that they get? I just like to check, how did we get to the rationale of getting 15 prior to the 11 that we had last year, if we can maybe get an understanding? I know we have grown, other political parties have grown, but I'd just like to know the formula in working them all out. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Nkwangwa.
Speaker, thank you very much. I intended to ask the same question, but maybe approached in a slightly different manner, where you're saying, yes, the number of parties has increased, but the size of the assembly has remained the same. Is it because Parliament is anticipating that we're probably going to have less committees this year than we had the last time around? And if what are those issues, they need to be put on the table so that we're able to support, including the ratios, the percentages which were used in determining 15, how many seats for each party and whatnot, and whether from a practical point of view, that is going to work given the number of parties, right, for an example, and the number of committees that you're going to have, and the number of meetings those committees that will have to have at some point simultaneously. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other question? There being none, I'll ask Mr. Klaso to respond.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. In working out the numbers, we have looked broadly at the strength of the parties. I'll give you one example, for instance. If you take the ANC and the proposed 15 members, what you have there is actually less than 40% of that. If it was 40%, it would be 6 members, that would be 42%. So we have more or less moved around the strength of parties, and the DA got, I think, about 22% in the elections. And that would be half of what the ANC gets. So we have attempted to place this within the numerical strength of parties. And of course, our attempt was to be accommodating in terms of the number of parties that you have. Whereas you had 2 from the smaller parties, we thought if you increased it to 4, that would work. But of course, this is a proposal. We are happy to take inputs, and we will be able to adjust and be helpful to this structure. But that is more or less what we have considered.
I can see Honorable Muda, you want to have your say, but while you are thinking, let me allow the honorable member from the DA. Sorry, from Rise.
It's Rise Mzansi.
Yeah? There's a lot of changes here. Oh, Rise Mzansi.
Yeah, a lot changes and Parliament stays as it is. Thanks very much. I think maybe to assist, I mean, if you go further down in the document, there were a number of options that are given. Because, for instance, and I'm trying to think, if the idea was to accommodate the extra parties, if we had an option of moving it to 13, because at this moment, until such time that the executive is configured, given how the elections are, you might end up with a situation wherein smaller parties are actually in the executive, which might limit their participation, given how the configuration is. if maybe we can play around with an option of 13 members instead of, so if we say if we had to start with where things are at 11, how will the distribution look like? When we move to 13, how will the distribution look like? And when we are at 15, then at least it gives something that you look at. But if you had to look at 15 in isolation, then does not give, you know, I understand, I mean, as one of the newer parties, we get an extra seat, but all right. You
All right.
understand where I'm going?
I understand. Honorable Mulder,
Noted.
followed by Honorable Sitle and Honorable Machudina.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. There's no super formula that can just be applied. It's not going to work that way because you've got all the different things to take into account. In the last parliament, we were 14 parties. Now we've got 18. So we've got to try to accommodate as many parties as possible. Secondly, you can't make a calculation that exactly goes according to the percentages. You've got to take a little bit here and give a little bit more there, et cetera, et cetera. If you look at the current proposal, it gives permanent positions to the 4 largest parties. And then the other 14 parties are grouped together with 4 members each, and that entails about 57 members. But if you look at the different percentages and how this works out, I think it's the closest that one would get to a fair distribution between accommodating party strength, getting as many parties included in this process, because in practical terms, the other 14 parties will now go and sit alone and look at all the different portfolios and give their preferences, and then we will have to find a balance between how do we take up those 4 positions per committee. That's what we've done in the past. It can be done again. I think this is a fair distribution. I would support that. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Ngubane.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Speaker. From my side, I want to know, she did ask again that what's the formula that has been used? And what, if I heard correctly, you just said you just splitted and said 4, 5 because of the percentages that we receive. But we would like to see the formula that make you arrive to these numbers. What informed the allocation of the numbers so that we know that the configuration, will it affect the time allocation each party will have in a single committee as well?
Thank you very much, Honorable Machudina.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. My name is Pemi Machudina. Let me greet all honorable members present here. Honorable Speaker, with the explanation that Mr. Klaso has given to this meeting, I think at the moment we can be accommodative, because if we go back to 11 members, it therefore means most parties might not be accommodated in committees. For instance, if we work the allocation based on the strength of parties, the ANC is supposed to get 6 instead of 5. The 40% is supposed to be 6, not 5. But we are not making any complaint at the moment because we want to be accommodative of other parties. I think that explanation by Mr. Klaso suffices. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me hear, Mr. Klaso, if you can just indicate the formula, because I think that is the issue where clarity is sought. Otherwise, members do appreciate that given our situation in the 7th administration and the number of parties, we'll have to find a way that can best ensure representation into the structure. Fine.
Madam Speaker, thank you so much. I think we, as indicated, we work on the basis of proportionality. And so we will take, for instance, the number 15 and look at the strength of parties. And members are going to see this even clearer when we deal with questions and other activities of the NA. As indicated also, it can't be exact in terms of the numbers. And to the extent possible, you stay as close as you can to the strength of the parties and to the principle of proportionality. So that's really where we are, and that's why we get to where we get to on this one. It really depends on the number that you want. If it was 30, the numbers will be different because the formula will give out different numbers there. Thank you. Madam Speaker, my understanding is that what we have presented is now agreed to.
Is it satisfactory, honorable members? Honorable Majudina?
I think the other question that was asked is allocation to a committee in terms of number of members going to affect the speaking time? The response is no. There is no restricted speaking time when the committee meeting is on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Nkwango.
Although Mr. Klaso responded to the question in a slightly roundabout way, but the point for me is clear. If you take 400 and divide it by 11, that gives you 36 committees, right? Hypothetically speaking. Now, if you take the same 400 and you divide it by 15, it gives you 26 or 27 committees, give and take. The question I was asking, are we anticipating that there will be less departments now in government to mirror the cabinet, which will actually be announced by the president? Because remember, you have to mirror that too. So it means that whatever decision we take in today, it must take ultimately that into account, that we might have to review the number per committee because it will determine as to how many committees that members can realistically serve in. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Nkwango. As you know, that all of us here are legislators. We don't have a sense of how that configuration is going to be. Obviously, the Rules Committee, once we know what the determination of the president in terms of the number of ministries, I'm sure it would meet and finalize that issue. That's why we are not dealing with the portfolio committees and their number. We're just dealing with the constitution of ideally what it would be if we were to work around the number 15. I've got 3, 4. Okay. We'll start with Honorable Trolley, followed by Honorable Guarube, followed by Honorable Mente.
And thank you very much, Speaker.
Majos. As we go, I will be able to remember almost all your names. You'll pardon me for now. So Mente, you'll be followed by Majosi, and then Honorable Nduli. Honorable, do you want? Oh, okay. Yeah. Honorable Trolley.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. In the absence of a coherent reasoning for the formula, I think it's fun that we come up with a figure that gives smaller parties representation, and it doesn't depend on how many committees there are. It's about the composition of the committee, and it won't affect anyone because some of the smaller parties have only got 4 members per committee. We won't be able to attend all the committees. So the composition is just the composition to spread it and make it fairer, and I think it's a fair proposal.
Thank you, Honorable Karube.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I would like to support the proposal. I think at all times we must try and err on the side of inclusion and rather than exclusion. And so if we are increasing the number of members per committee to incorporate a lot more of the parties, I think that we are in the spirit of what Parliament seeks to do. So we would support the proposals of the 15 members with the 4 members from the smaller parties. As I said, I think it's better to err on the side of inclusion than exclusion.
Thank you, Honorable Mente.
Thank you, Speaker. Now, I wanted us to move forward. I think the 15 is correct. And it will, as much as it will spread us thin, Honorable Nkwango is making a point of, hypothetically speaking, it's 26 committees. Then if you exclude of the 400, the executive, those that will go to executive, it then reduces the number. But we will deal with it as we go along. I'm sure there's a provision within the rules on how we can deal with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mentor. Honorable Joseph.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. No, I think now we're moving to the right direction. No, I was going to support the 15 with the rationale that there's only 4 addition of in the assembly. We're 14, now we're 18. So if you add the 4 of the 11, then maybe it gives you that formula as well. So I was going to support the 15 that they've proposed.
Honorable Ntuli.
No, thanks, Madam Speaker. Good afternoon to you and other honorable members. No, I'm largely covered. I was also going to raise the same point that let's decide on the proposal before us this afternoon. And later on, I'm sure there would be provision in the rules if there is a need for us to review the position we're adopting today. I think what is comforting for some of us is that it accommodates, it's an effort to ensure that everybody is brought on board in the participation of the committee. So I think let's proceed with it. Thanks.
Thank you. Honorable Hendricks.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, if you look at the numbers and we look at the 6th Parliament, when the portfolio committees were established, it was established in such a way that the governing party has the majority of the votes on the portfolio committee. So they then have like a veto or a final say on any matter before the portfolio committee. That now no longer applies, where we have to take that into consideration. And I think what helps is that it has been mentioned that while many political parties will be excluded from portfolio committees as voting members, every party will have an opportunity to put a case. So when there is a matter that a political party who is not on the portfolio committee wants to put their case, they have to come up with a compelling reason why the portfolio committee must consider their proposal. So that helps quite a lot. And I hope that going forward, nothing will stand in the way of any member of parliament to take part in any debate or matter on the portfolio committee, because the precedent in the past was in the last 6 parliaments, because the ANC was the governing party, they had the majority of members on the portfolio committee and they could rule. Now they can't rule anymore.
Okay, Honorable Hendricks, we've noted the point. Order, Honorable
So
members.
my question is, what assurance do we have that nothing will stand in the way of any member of parliament attending portfolio committees, especially if there's a matter of interest?
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. The rules of Parliament and the Convention has not changed and will not change. Every member, each party can participate in any committee of Parliament. So that will not change. And obviously, those that are voting in that committee will then vote. But in the participation, discussion of any matter, any member of Parliament can participate. I take it that honorable members who are agreeing, Honorable Frolick, do you want to?
Yes, Honorable Speaker, I think just for the record, in terms of what the honorable member from Al Jamaaf said, portfolio committee decisions are subject, its recommendations, it's subject to the House deciding. And the House have the authority in terms of the rule to decide on such a matter. It's just recommendations that's coming through.
Thank you very much. Honorable Member, there's been a proposal, and after discussion, we've all agreed that the current proposal is acceptable unless there's any other change, which obviously the Rules Committee will be convened and that matter can be looked at. So we have indicated that the configuration of portfolio committees will actually be deferred until we know the structure of cabinet. So that matter is not going to be dealt with. Honorable Paso, you can proceed with other matters.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We now proceed, honorable members, to the formula for appointment of whips. What do whips do? Whips are responsible for the political management of the business of Parliament, and they obviously assist even in the House to ensure that order and decorum will be maintained. So each party that qualifies is allocated a whip or whips, but there are parties when you apply the formula which would not qualify. In that case, those parties are grouped together and allocated a number of whips. Now, what you see below is a table that deals with how the formula would, what it would give out. Now, in the sixth parliament, at the start of the sixth parliament, the formula was for every 7 members, you had 1 whip, and that was adjusted to every 6.5 members, you have a whip. And we are proposing 2 options this time around. The one option is that we retain what we had in the sixth parliament of 6.5 members, whip to 6.5 members, or a whip per 6 members. And if you do that, you, with 6 members, you would end up with 69 whips all in all. And that is divided or split into the numbers that you see. ANC would qualify for 27, DA 15, MK 10 whips, EFF 7, IFP 3, PA 2, FF plus 1, Action SA 1, and the other 9 members which will come from the different parties, they would qualify for 3 whips. If you went for 6.5, you then have ANC 24, DA 13, MK 9, FF 6, IFP 3, PA, FF plus, and Action SA 1 each, and all the other parties combined would qualify for 3 whips. Those are the 2 options, Honorable Speaker, that were placed before this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll start with Honorable Machodina, followed by Honorable Sihle Ngubane, and Honorable Swart, and Honorable Mente.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, in appreciating this presentation. I'm moving, Honorable Speaker, that we adopt option 1, which is 6 whips per member. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Ngubane.
Honorable Speaker, I can see that on your writing on the paper, you haven't got out of the dream of the majority party. There's no majority party there, so I don't know how you still put a majority party here. So I think we need to correct that. And then if it affects the formula here, it needs to be corrected, because you can see a way that says majority party, and you find that probably you're still accommodating it on the formula. Let's get out of that dream. There's no majority party anymore.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ngubane. With respect to the definitions, whether we call majority or minority or largest or whatever, we are proposing that that will be dealt with by the task team, which will be the small team of the committee, which will then look at what other jurisdictions convene it. But as Honorable Paso had said, we looked at the numbers in terms of what the voting outcome gave a particular party the numbers, and therefore our division is based of 6 members per party gets 1 allocation. So the definition 1, we will defer. We're not avoiding it, but we're saying It's going to be a matter that the small committee of the rules would look at based on what other jurisdictions in other countries deal with such issues of definition. But if I may ask, are you fine with the proposal as it stands based on the numbers?
I'm very fine, Honorable Member. I'm very fine. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Mbovu. Honorable Swart,
I support,
order,
I
order.
support the first option, 6 members. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Mente.
Ndiyabona bonke sihamba kakuhle umoya mnye. Option 1.
Do I have any other? Honorable Hendricks?
Yeah, I've just done the calculation. 6 times 3 is 18. And that gives the smaller parties 3 whips.
Yes.
There is another one hanging in the air. And I think that it will be much fairer if they get 4 because it's already difficult to get a whip from another party to represent your party and maybe 2 other parties. To soften the blow, seeing that there is still one in the air, is it possible to consider increasing the number of whips for smaller parties to 4?
Honorable members, the presentation of a proposal has been made. It has got support from the parties that have made representation. There is an issue that is raised by Honorable Hendricks that maybe we consider to have an addition of 1 party for smaller parties. Honorable Trolley, followed by Honorable Hlagute.
Honorable Speaker, I'd hate to be the first person to speak against the entrance of a small party because we're a small party. But what we're using here is a formula. And if you use a formula, you must apply the formula. Already the change of formula from 1 to 6.5 to 1 to 6 means that there are 8 more whips, which has a remuneration impact on the budget of Parliament. And if you want to change the formula to larger than that, what will happen is that the bigger parties will get more whips. The smaller parties will not get more whips. So if you start meddling with the formula to cater for the smaller parties, what will happen is the bigger parties will get more.
Are you covered, Honorable Hlagute?
Thanks, Honorable Speaker. I've been covered by Honorable Trollip. This formula is used to be inclusive of all smaller parties. If they don't want to be included.
I
It's
don't think
fine,
that
we
was
can
the
go
view.
with it. But we are a multi-party parliament. That's why this formula is used. Thanks.
Okay. Covered or?
Thank you very much, Speaker. I'm covered. I just wanted to say that the way we started in appreciating the inclusiveness to smaller parties was very good. And the temptation from Honorable Hendricks to abuse it.
Well, I
he must
wouldn't
just withdraw it.
suggest that we use such strong terminology. Let's just accept that the proposal has not been accepted. The proposed formula has been supported by many parties and we agreed to that. Agreed. Option 1. Option 1 is accepted in terms of the proposal for whippery. Can we move to the next?
Madam Speaker,
item?
we now move to questions. We'll try to simplify what we have written here, which are in the Word document. Basically, there are 2 types of questions in Parliament. You have oral questions, you then have written questions. Oral questions are taken broadly on a weekly basis when the program allows on Wednesdays. You take questions to ministers, questions to the Deputy President, questions to the President as well. You also have a mechanism of questions for written reply. That one is not confined to specific days. You can ask those questions anytime when the program of the House indicates as such. So what you do, the time allocated for questions is 3 hours. And so what we are proposing is that you create opportunities to ask questions in a 3-hour session. And in this instance, we are proposing that 17 opportunities be created to ask questions. What we have also done is to group parties that would otherwise not qualify to ask questions. So if we were to just go to the formula, next, yes. And also just to indicate, this is a formula we use, even with committees, we used this formula here for parties to indicate how many opportunities a party has. So our proposal here is that 17 opportunities be created to ask oral questions, and that will be the sequence of parties that we have indicated, where you will have group 1 after the bigger parties, group 1, which will consist of the PA, UDM, Al-Jama, group 2, FF plus, Rise Mzansi, CCC, group 3, Action SA, BOSA, PAC, group 4, ACDP, ATM, UAT, and GOOD. So those are the groups that are provided for. Now, in terms of the opportunities that they will have in any given day, if you can go down, please, on your PowerPoint presentation. Go down. Go. Again. Please, go. Okay. All right. Parent, please assist there. But the ANC on any given opportunity would have 6 opportunities. The DA would have 3 opportunities. The MK would have 2 opportunities. EFF, 1 opportunity. IFP, 1. The groups, 1, 1, 1. And honorable members, I think we do need to indicate that if you were to apply proportionality in strict terms, the parties from Rise Mzansi, or maybe from the ACDP, would maybe not qualify to ask questions. So whereas the ANC, for instance, if you apply the principle of proportionality, would be entitled to 7 opportunities, we have proposed that they take 6 opportunities. The DA would be entitled to 4 opportunities. We have proposed that they take 3 opportunities so that you are able to accommodate the smaller parties as well. So in essence, we are proposing 17 opportunities on a Wednesday or during a question day with these lots that are given to the parties as we have presented in our document and in the presentation that you have there. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Castle. Here is the proposal. Deputy Speaker, Honorable Kwarube, followed by Ghana from Rise Mzansi, and followed by EFF.
Speaker, I think it's perhaps just important that Mr. Castle also explains where the 17 comes from in terms of the 3 hours available. Thank you.
Okay, maybe before we proceed, if you can just clarify the 17.
Yes. Madam Speaker, I think we should say that in any given question session, you take 12 to 13 questions in a 3-hour session. But there will be instances, they sometimes are rare, that you could take up to 17 opportunities, questions. And that is why we're creating up to 17. So that there is always a possibility that even the other parties are able to present their questions, or their questions are able to be responded to. But if those questions are not reached on that day, you will still get a response, but it will be a written response. So at the end of the question session, ministers are required to submit their responses immediately in the form of a written reply. So that's really where the 17 is taken from, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, let's go back to the members. Kosovo.
Thank you, Speaker. Again, I just want to reiterate that in my view, we would rather err on the side of inclusivity than not. And so I would just support the proposal to have the smaller parties getting one opportunity as opposed to just applying pure proportionality where we would have parties that are excluded. So I would support the proposal. Thanks.
Ghana.
Thanks very much. So two parts. First, I support the proposal in terms of the split. But want to the point that you have responded to. The last time I was here, we sometimes we'll battle even to get to 12 questions. And with the breakdown, is it we might very well need to consider a situation wherein if say for instance the current breakdown, let's say we ended at question 12, which at this moment with the proposal will be the MK. That the next question session, and this is what I'm putting as a proposal, that it then starts with almost finishing what we could not do in the last round, so that we started number 13. Because if we don't do that, and this is my worry, whilst one sees where we are, but it might end up with a situation where group 4 might not get an opportunity, unless if you toggle with every question session, you toggle to say maybe for this particular question session, the first question will go to group 4. Because if group 4 will always get the last one, we might not get there. So just an understanding in terms of that toggling that will allow for everyone to have an opportunity with every sitting or question session, so that you don't have those ones that are below 10, because you will know even getting to 10, and the option might very well be to either extend from 3 hours to 4 hours, and then you know that you get to 17, or to then toggle it up in a way that allows everyone a fair opportunity, that at least in a two weekly question session, then they can ask a question. Because whilst I take the point around the minister response, sometimes the important aspect is not in the first response, because that you could always get with a written question. It's in the follow-up questions.
All right.
Yes, that's what I'm proposing.
Okay.
Thanks. But I accept the generosity of the ones that receive.
Let's say the formula. Honorable Kalipi.
No, thank you very much, Speaker. Speaker, I think that since we have more political parties, as other colleagues are saying, that the small parties must also be accommodated, given opportunities. We must also increase 3 hours. Yeah, it's not going to work. We have more political parties now, but still confined under 3 hours. I think we must agree as this rules committee that no, we must increase at least 4 hours in order for us to do our work satisfactory. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Ngubane.
Yeah, Honorable Speaker, I know we're still on the sequence of question. My question was related to the written question. I don't know.
Can I ask, because we're dealing with all questions.
Oh, okay.
Honorable Class indicated in the beginning that written questions, there is no limit.
Yeah.
Any member of parliament from any party can write as many questions to the ministers. So there is no limit on that one. This one is the oral questions that happen in the House.
Okay, on the written question, what's the status of the written question if they have not been responded to as prescribed in the rules? Because we've noted that on a disturbing pattern of written questions in the past, taking time to be replied to.
Okay, Majosi.
No, thank you, Speaker. I think I would agree with the issue of time, since we have 18 representation of parties. Maybe because usually on the day of questions, we start at 3. Maybe we can just start at 2 so that we meet 6 o'clock. It allows that an hour so that what Honorable Ghana said, then other parties are able also to be accommodated, because it's simple to put it as a formula on paper, but in practicality, when you look at it, it won't, there are parties that will not even get an opportunity to be asking questions and being responded to. So I think maybe as we are saying that we are being inclusive, let us maybe think about time as well, since there's more parties.
Thank you, Honorable Makubela, Honorable Dagude and Duli, and Mkalipi again, or Mente, and then Swart.
Thank you, Speaker. Well, 180 minutes is not such a bad idea, but I would want to suggest that we take the suggestion of 4 hours to the sub-rules committee. Because at the end of the day, all questions which are on the question paper get an opportunity to be responded to. It does not only end at the oral reply, but they do get written responses. So they will get their responses. Thank you.
Dagude. Duli.
No, thanks so much, Madam Speaker. I support the suggestion, given the fact that Mr. Kwaso was saying there were rare moments where the numbers could be accommodated to 17. I don't think from where we are in a position to go into detail about determining that today. I would propose that the small committee must help us to deal with the detail, take into account those considerations and the proposal that has been made by the Honorable Member.
Honorable Mente, or you giving it over to Mkalipi?
No, thank you, Speaker. Yeah, Speaker, in the same spirit of the proposal of 4 hours, is another question, maybe Kaso can clarify it, that we have one opportunity, which also the IFP has one opportunity. IFP is not even half of the EFF. And we can't have same opportunities. We can have one opportunity during question session. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Swart and Honorable Prolip.
Yes, thank you, Speaker. It would depend on whether the subcommittee decides on 4 hours or not, because as presently formulated, where we as the ACDP are together with ATM, UAT and Good 17th question, we will never get to ask follow-up questions, in my experience. We never get to question 17, unless it is then the groups are rotated. Group 1, where we are group 4 now, next time around, we become group 1, and otherwise, we would never get to ask a follow-up question. And I like, and that was the issue my colleague raised. So subject to the amount of questions being for 4 hours, that would cover up to 17. Otherwise, we can't support this. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Prolip.
Honorable Speaker, I would be very loath to have this matter go and be buried in the Rules Subcommittee, because the essence of an oral question is to be able to ask a follow-up. If you leave it the way it is, even with 4 hours, in my experience, you won't get to 17. So some political parties will be relegated to only ever asking written questions, because essentially your oral question becomes a written question. You never get to put an oral question. So the technicality can be discussed at the Sub-Rules Committee, but they must understand that we want the time increased to 4 hours. We've come here to work, And 4 hours in our parliamentary program is not a big ask. We've come to work, and then they must work it out. And we have no problem with toggling the members, the smaller parties that are grouped, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1, and no problem with that. But please not bury it in the sub-rules committee where they come back and say, no, look, we've got 3 hours and the smaller parties, you can just have written questions. That won't be acceptable.
Honorable Kalipi?
But Speaker, with an experience that we have, we never struggle that much of having all questions covered in a session. It's a rare moment whereby the ministers, maybe they're not available and so on. But our experience sitting here, we know very well, Uti, we're doing very well. What we need to address in this role, Speaker, is the quality of answers from the ministers. That is the elephant in the room. Because the minister will just stand up and say, this is a new question. And then the speaker and the chairs said, no, member, the minister have answered. You have given the opportunity, now is the time for the minister. That's what we must also resolve when we're dealing with these rules, the quality of the answers from the ministers. But not if there is a crisis in terms of finishing the session in time, we do. It's very rare occasionally if those ministers are not in the house or what. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Gubani. Gubani, followed by Tlaguta.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Regarding the questions and the entitlement, are we saying that the DA will be passing motions and asking questions to its own self, taking into consideration, Honorable Speaker, the upcoming GNU? I don't know whether we're considering that as well with the entitlement and all the stuff.
Gubani, I can see me when I let's just address these matters. Order, honorable members, I take it in good spirit that there are matters, as Honorable Gubane said, and also had raised earlier, that the subcommittee on rules will have to relook at them, given the new session that the situation we're faced with. What does it mean with the configuration of government, depending on how it shapes up? What does that do in terms of definitions, in terms of how we structure the questions and all of those? But at the moment, all of those would be hypothetical, really, because we're not yet there. But I think what we are dealing with here now is, all things being equal, this is the formula that is being proposed, and now we've arrived at it. And I didn't hear that there were concerns except the EFF raising the issue of the opportunity, whether they have the same as the IFP. That was one issue that was raised in that configuration. Otherwise, what all members are saying is we would not have a problem with increasing the time to 4 hours. I didn't hear any dissenting voice. The smaller parties, from those who have spoken amongst them, they are proposing that maybe the rotational amongst them, be allowed. I didn't also hear any opposition to that. So as it stands, I think there's agreement. The only question that also has been raised, which maybe Mr. Kaso can answer to, is what mechanism does Parliament have if written questions are not answered by ministers? The other issue which Honorable Kalipi is raising is that we do need to have an engagement with the executive that the quality of answers that get given to questions raised by members is actually substantive in order to allow for accountability. So if members would allow me, can I just ask Kaso to respond to the issue of the written questions? What currently is the convention by Parliament where ministers may not be answering questions? What does Parliament do? And the second one on the number between IFP and the EFF. I think those were the two, unless there are other new issues that members would want or raise? Honorable Mulder, Honorable Ntuli, and Honorable Kwakube.
Chairperson, maybe it was mentioned and I didn't listen. The question of 4 hours would practically mean from 3 to 7 and not from 2 to 6. Unless the executive changes their program, because I remember in the past, we couldn't start before 3 o'clock because the executives got their own interactions. You cannot be at the house before 3 o'clock.
Okay, Honorable Ntuli.
No, Madam Speaker, I don't know if I heard you very well. I don't think we're agreeing now on the rotation. My view was that let's subject the rotation to the process we've agreed upon of the small committee. If it comes back and says the best way to manage or to implement our own decision the way we want it would be the rotation, I think we should deal with it at that time.
Thank you. I think Honorable Ntuli, Mr. Kaso will also respond to that. But what I understood from the smaller parties, and I will need guidance, they were not saying the rotation affecting everybody else, but it was within those groupings of smaller parties to say if on Wednesday this week it was group 1, next week group 2 becomes the one that starts, or group 4 becomes the one that starts, and you rotate it in that way. So it wasn't going to be affecting the other parties necessarily. Honorable Zintlangwini Mkhaliphi, Mtlangwini, and then Kubani.
Thank you, Speaker. I think we shouldn't act like we are not here to work or make like this is cast in stone. It doesn't say that it's a must that we must have question sessions only on a Wednesday. So my proposal, maybe perhaps if we're saying the time doesn't allow us, why don't we have question sessions 2 days per week to accommodate everyone? Because it's not cast in stone. We can take that decision. There's nobody holding a gun to our heads to say you can only have question sessions only on a Wednesday and no other days or 2 days per week. So let us not put ourselves all the time as Parliament in a box. Let's leave those things off. This is the convention. Let's change the narrative and we are here to work.
Thank you, Honorable Ngubane, and then Kwakube, and then Ghana.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I keep on hearing when there is a question that needs to be corrected later somewhere. I hear you, Speaker, keep on referring to, we'll go back to the task team or subcommittee rules to go sort that one out. We will need to know as well on that, what's the term of reference of those things that we refer there, and who sits there, so that we know when we don't discuss things here and we're referring to something else called the task team or sub-rules committee. We need to know who sits there, what's the term of reference and all that stuff.
Okay, we'll come to it, Honorable Ngubane. Honorable Kwakube.
Thank you, Speaker. Just 2 things. I'm sure Mr. Klasa will cover it, but the subcommittee of the Rules Committee comes from this body and reports to this body, and all its decisions are then taken by this body. So the subcommittee doesn't make its decisions in a closed room. So I don't think there's any danger in saying certain things that need to be thrashed out can go to a subcommittee that can meet on a more regular basis and that can thrash out a lot more detail. The second thing is I want to support the issue that was raised by Honorable Mkhaliphi on the quality of the responses that are given by the executive. And I'm not suggesting that that is something that needs to be dealt with here in this document, but I would just like to place it on the record that perhaps it is something that the subcommittee needs to look at. More than engaging the executive and saying, please do better, I think we need to come up with our own standard of what satisfies a satisfactory response. Because I remember in the past term, there were times where presiding officer would basically say, even if a minister said blah, 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 just because they said something, it suffices as a response. And then that would be referred to the rules, and then we would never get a response. So I would like to place that, please, on the record, that in the rules committee, the subcommittee of the rules, look into the matter of how do we set at least a basic standard of what is a satisfactory response.
Thank you, Honorable Ghana.
Thank very much, Madam Speaker. So I take the proposals. You have captured part of the proposal that I had made in terms of moving around. But what I was also proposing, whilst I accept that maybe in the latter stages or latter years of the sixth parliament, you were able to get through all the questions, all the 17 questions. We must also, and that's something that even the Constitution, it was done at a particular time, and now we are faced with a particular environment. My second proposal was that in an event, unlikely, let's say if we accept what Honorable Mkhalipo was saying, that we will get through all the questions. But if in an event we don't get through all the questions in terms of the oral responses, if we finish at number 14 for this week's question time, then for next week's question time, number 15 becomes number 1. And then so basically you write 1 up to 17, and then you continue 1 up to 17, so that the next time the people that will not have had the opportunity to ask oral questions, they know that next time we are not resetting, because at the moment we are resetting. So we do every session, it's like it's start from 0. And I'm proposing that we take it as a continuous. So if we finish all the questions, then we're finished, we are done. But then if we don't finish, let's allow others who will not have an opportunity to ask the oral question to ask the oral question. That's my proposal. So 1 to 17, then we continue one as a continuous way. Thanks very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Dlagud, and then I will give Honorable Kaso, and I'll summarize at the end.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I thought we have passed that stage by agreeing the rotational part of it. So if this matter is not conclusive, I would suggest that it goes back to the subcommittee on rules, because that's where matters of this nature are being processed. So can we refer it to that subcommittee, Honorable Speaker? Thanks.
Thank you, Honorable Kaso.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Rule 137, Sub-Rule 9 says the sequence of questions on the question paper rotates without interruption for the duration of an annual session, according to the order in which members of the respective parties may put questions, such order being determined by the Rules Committee from time to time. So to answer Honorable Ghana, that is the practice currently. That is the rule that you continue. So you don't restart the process. Secondly, a question was asked about what if members don't respond to ministers, don't respond to written questions. The rule, I won't read it, but it's Rule 146, Sub-Rule 1, provides that if a question for written reply has not been responded to within the allocated time, which is 10 days, and there's an extension of another 10 days, the member concerned may ask that that question be placed for oral reply. So you have an opportunity for that question to be converted. Madam Speaker, I think those are the two issues. The issue raised by the EFF, the opportunity. I think at the start of my presentation, I did say that in terms of this formula, if the bigger parties did not donate time to the other parties, there are parties that would not qualify to ask questions. So in this regard, the ANC, the DA, the EFF, I think because the EFF is 1.7, so you could round it off to 2. and the ANC 6.8, the DA is 3.7. So those opportunities have gone to the smaller parties. And that's really why you then have one there. And then, Madam Speaker, the issue of the time, if the time for questions is changed, that would need to go, that is a rules review issue because the time is embedded in the rules. So that would need to go to that subcommittee. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Honorable members, I think we have passed on this question. The EFF will still want to further engage on the opportunity, but I think the clarity has been given by Honorable Secretary of the NA, how we've arrived at it. But just to say, Honorable Ngubane, the subcommittee that I was referring to is the subcommittee of this committee, and we will indicate how that is composed. So what it does, if the matters have not been concluded and they require further investigation or deliberation, it will go to that committee. But the committee will then come back and recommend to this committee for final decision. So in itself, it does not take decisions. And I think in this matter, the real issue that might be discussed by that committee, but it has really got consensus from all members, is the issue of increasing time. There was no member that we shouldn't increase the time to 4 hours. The only issue is, do we do it in 2 days? Do we do it in 1 day? And if we do it in 1 day, we bump up the time and start on Wednesday at 2 to 6, or we start from 3 to 7. I think that's just the issue. And I think what Honorable Mulder was raising is that the reason why we ended up with 3 was to make sure that the executive to whom we want to ask this question are able to be present, because sometimes the cabinet committee might go until 2 p.m. or slightly after 2. So the 3 o'clock was to accommodate that eventuality, because at the end of the day, we don't ask the questions to ourselves as the legislature, we ask it from the executive. So in that case, I think the time might be 3 o'clock to 7, if we accept that. Or what Honorable Mhlangwini was saying, that shouldn't we maybe look at another time in the week, so that you remain with 3 to 6 and maybe 1 hour in the other day. That, I think, it's what we're saying, maybe the subcommittee on rules can then deliberate on. But the issue of increasing time to 4, I did not see it as any challenge from any other member of the parties. There was consensus around that. Honorable Kwarube and to Honorable Mentor.
Speaker, I'm happy for the matter to be deliberated in the subcommittee, and just perhaps for the further discussion there. One of the things we can also look at is, in order to fit in more questions, is to look at reducing the time for ministers to respond to certain questions. The questions themselves are not meant to be highly technical, and so they could be reduced from 4 minutes to less time, 3 minutes or 2 minutes. It makes the ministers more concise and they can answer the questions, and we can still have them here from 3 o'clock or whenever the time is. But I think it can be something that the Rules Committee can make a recommendation on.
Thank you, Honorable Mentor.
Thank you very much, Speaker. There's 2 issues. One, on the matter of the quality of responses, that has to, we must agree that it must be dealt with. Why? We cannot make a determination in the House when a member says, my question was on why or what, and a person says, no, it doesn't really matter. You are asked a question, you didn't respond. So then the mechanism in the House, in the previous parliament and other parliaments, was that Whichever member is not satisfied with the quality of an answer must write to the Rules Committee and whatnot. We need to deal with that. It is not serving a purpose of all of us being here if we're not going to get quality answers. Then number two is on the conversion of an unanswered question during question session. The reason why we asked follow-up questions is to test the standard and the quality of an answer that was responded on the day. So if you convert my question into a written reply because it was not answered, you are answering only me, but there's no opportunity to further investigate and interrogate that answer by other parties. You will get that question and that is it. The other opportunity to interrogate it means me asking another question on another question session opportunity in interrogation of that, which is now not getting us anywhere. We'll utilize 2 months because clusters are many. That cluster will come 2 months down the line and I would have forgotten. So the purpose of other people following up is to assist each other in getting to the bottom of whatever question was asked. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The subcommittee on rules have got their work cut out. So they'll have to deliberate on these matters that members are putting forward that needs to be looked into. The quality of the answers, whether in terms of the rules, we would want to have some further elaboration on how that is dealt with. The issue of the follow-ups, how do we deal with that in the context of unanswered questions on the day? With that, honorable members, can I ask Mr. Klaso to move? On the member statements, really the sequence is still the same. So I would rather we move on the issue of executive statements.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm happy with that. We now move to executive statements, honorable members. This is an opportunity for the executive to make statements on matters of government policy or executive action. And following that moment, there is an opportunity for parties to respond, one member per party, to respond to a statement. We are proposing a time allocation for that purpose, for parties to respond to statements. So if you may go to the options. Option one, we're proposing 66 minutes be allocated for party responses to statements. And that is how it would be like, your ANC 8, DA 6. I won't go through all the times, but the minimum is 3 minutes that you would get there. And of course, ministers have 20 minutes for their statements. So they would use 15 minutes for the actual statement and 3 minutes to respond to the inputs by the parties. The other option is 68 minutes that we create there as reflected in the document. So honorable members, that is those are the proposals that we are placing before yourselves for consideration. Thank you.
Honorable Mkhaliphi?
No, Chair, and we don't want to be seen as we are negative. It can't be. You are given 4 minutes and IFP 4 minutes. So we are going to fight until the last page of this document. No, Chair. You can call bouncers now.
No need for bouncers. What we can ask is that there is a further reflection. You have raised the concern earlier on. It was responded to how it was arrived at, but you have indicated that you would still want it to be looked into. Any other members who would like to respond to the proposal on executive statements? On the executive statements, all political parties have an opportunity to respond. The times, yes, may be different, unlike in the question where members are grouped, some of them, but in this one, each party has an opportunity to respond. and it is allocated that what we might need to, do we go for 66 or 68 minutes, which is the options? Honorable members, do we go for 66 minutes or do we go for 68? Honorable Mkhaliphi, the issue of your minutes, I've noted that it will be reflected upon, but are we, Tlangwini? Tlangwini, followed by Majority, followed by Throlip.
Speaker, please, can we get our minute? Because it must be, and let's get it, the one member have said it earlier on, let's get the terminology right. IFP falls under the smaller parties and they must go to the smaller parties. We are the fourth largest party in the country. So please give it to us our minute. And then IFP must be clubbed together with the smaller party where it belongs.
Okay, having said that, but are you comfortable with 68? Tlangwini? Honorable Tlangwini, are you comfortable with 68 or 66 minutes? So you are indifferent, whatever time, as long as you have got your minute. Honorable Majosi, followed by Honorable Prolip.
No, thank you, Speaker. I think I don't disagree with what the EFF is saying, but their justification is wrong because there are other parties that they don't, they are not in the similar amounts with when it comes to, but all other parties, which means the PA, because it has 9 members, Freedom Fund Plus has 6. So the PA will come and say, we have 9 members. We can't be given the same time as Freedom Fund Plus and Action SA. But what I'm saying is, they must just put their justification and let loose of the obsession of the IFP. Because the IFP does not disturb anything with their time. We have not taken anything away from them. We have always received the 4 minutes and we are very happy with the 4-minute speaker. So if they are not happy, they must take it up with the table, not with the IFP. The IFP did not say that they must not come back 44 or 60.
Order, honorable members. I've indicated that we've noted the concern raised by the EFF. We will deal with it as the table and we'll report back to the rules how we've dealt with that matter. But I'm just saying that we've noted it. So all what I was asking parties, we've put 2 options in terms of how much minutes do we have for executive statements. Do we go with an option for 66 minutes or we go for an option of 68? Honorable Trollip.
Madam Speaker, we would support 66 minutes because if you go to 68, only the 2 biggest parties get extra speaking time. And secondly, just to deal with the issue raised by the EFF and their obsession with the IFP, we get the... Okay,
Order,
relax,
honorable
relax,
members.
Relax, you can do...
Honorable Tlangwini. Honorable Tlangwini. Honorable Mkhaliphi and Honorable Tlangwini. I will give you time. Let's allow Honorable Trolling to finish. Order. Honorable Trolling, finish your statement.
You know, what's so amazing is that some parties can say whatever they like, and then when other parties say what they like, those get upset.
Honorable members, can we please be in order for us to conclude the minute? Honorable Tlangwini, I have requested that let's speak on the points on the table. And I've indicated to the EFF that we've noted your matter. The table will address it and we'll come back to you. So let's allow Honorable Trollip to make his point, followed by Honorable Mkhaliphi.
My point is that my party is 6 times bigger than the PAC, the UAT, and Good. Therefore, if the same applies, I want 6 times more speaking time. So I want 18 minutes if Good are going to get 3 minutes. Then we can have a 5-hour debate.
Thank you, Honorable Trolip. I've noted that you propose 66. Honorable Makubela or Matodina?
Thanks, Speaker. Well, just I want clarity for us to understand where we are at, because accordingly, the presentation was that the parties had to forego or donate a minute to the smaller parties. And that was done for all the bigger parties. And if EFF then says they do not want their minute, it means that we are putting it on record here that they do not want this donation of a minute or a 0.7.
Order, Honorable Kalipi. Honorable Kalipi, let's allow other members to make their points.
Okay, the formula which was used is that parties forego their percentage in order to accommodate the smaller parties. And the reason you are also having the 4 minutes is that you are foregone, or according to the calculations, they donated the time to the other smaller parties. Now, EFF is putting it on record that they do not want this formula. So I just want us to get the technicalities to say whether it is allowed that they want to get back their point-something percentage. And then I would want to support the 66 minutes for
Debate.
for the debate, yes.
Okay. Honorable Matodina?
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I thought the spirit of this meeting was to be as inclusive as possible. But if certain parties say we demand our minute, we'll also demand our minutes. And where is that going to take us to? So I suggest that let's accommodate this proposal of 66, and the rules have a right to review such decisions. At the moment, I want to support the 66. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, honorable members. I've not heard any other party making a proposal of 68. So in terms of the global minutes for executive member statements, we go with 66. And we've noted what parties have said, that if the EFF would like this formula to be reviewed, it's important to appreciate that it would not only affect the EFF, it would affect the entirety of the formula, which in all likelihood might have a negative impact on the smaller parties. And as the table, we've noted that, and that's why I said we would reflect on it and then come back to the Rules Committee to indicate the implications of that review and what it would mean for all of us. And then we will take it from there. Thank you very much. Can we move to the motions?
Madam Speaker, here we are proposing 24 opportunities. What is this about? This is about members giving notices of motion to say that I move that on the next sitting day, the House discuss the matter, the issue of water. Just give that as an example. So those are called notices of motion, and there is a rotational process for those notices to be debated in mini plenaries largely. And there's also an opportunity for motions without notice. These are draft resolutions where members would like the House to take decisions on particular matters. Usually or ideally, they should not be controversial issues, should be issues that the House can easily agree to. So on particular days, opportunities are created for both motions without notice and notices of motion. Previously, we had 23 opportunities. We are proposing that 24 opportunities be created for that purpose in terms of the order and the sequence that we have proposed here. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Mr. Klaso, honorable members, here is a proposal. Over to you, NEC.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I accept that the proportionality in all these things that we have already talked about has been applied. But specifically on this one, when it comes to the ANC, it has not been applied. Because when you look at 7.1, which gives you 7, and you look at the DA of 3.9, which if you round off, you give 9, you give 3. Ordinarily you should give 4, but you give 3 because you are donating to others. When it comes to the ANC who are donating 3, it can't be. In that spirit of proportionality, it can be. The proportional representation there has not been applied and should be reviewed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, honorable mentor.
This Speaker, I do not know why these things keep moving upside down. And if this is now a matter of time of us being at work, then we must review the entire thing. We must review time. Because the reason why we're doing this thing and now we're going to fight about speaking times, which we must be afforded to parties according to their strength, is because we want to confine ourselves to a certain period of time of being at work. So we must be at work and not look at how much time must we spend at work when we have to do what we have to do. Now, look at this point we are dealing with, number 7. You may think that this is something that is small, it doesn't really matter, people don't care about it. It does mean something. And it doesn't necessarily mean that there is a donation to anyone. Everyone must present their motion. 18 parties, that's what the constituencies out there said we must be. They said we must be 18. We came, we calculated, we became 18. And therefore 18 parties must present those motions on the day. But to then say the EFF now is a smaller party, that's not in line with anything. It's really not in line with anything. I do not know what kind of a calculation that became. And if it means it must affect everyone must go up, then everyone must go up, no problem. We'll work. But one thing we're not going to accept is one opportunity. No, thank you.
Any other party? Ghana?
Thanks very much. So I was going to move that we accept, and one understands that maybe the other parties might feel that they are hard done by with 24 opportunities. That maybe they will want to have 30 opportunities. If we have 30 opportunities, then everyone gets their according to the ratio that they have. If that works out to an extra 15 minutes, it should be fine. But I think the spirit of inclusiveness, I thought that's what we were moving with. So it might very well be that we look at increasing the opportunities there from 24, so that there's not a lot of debates. No, I've sacrificed 3, so I sacrifice 3 so that I get 1, and then good gets 1, UAT gets 1. If no one sacrifices, then ourselves will not get to speak. But I propose, Madam Speaker, that we move the opportunities from 24 to 30, and then everyone gets their share, ANC will get 7, the DA will get 4, MK will get 3, EFF will get 2, everyone else gets 1. That's what I propose.
Honorable members, can I make a proposal? That what we do, we allow the table, NA table, with the subcommittee on the rules to look at, because what is an issue is not necessarily the formula. However, what members are concerned about is that this formula keeps on changing as you deal with the global time, which then either reduces the time in which parties have to speak and close back on their strength. So the option that I would like to propose is that we ask the NA table to tell us that if you classically use the strength of the parties on all of these, what will be the time configuration? And then we look at whether or not in the programming, will that require us to change the time of the sitting of the House? And then we then look at it. So the options will be classic configuration using the strength of parties and the proposals that have been made today. And I'm sure the Wipari tomorrow can have some tunadering when they look at both. And then we deal with it and finalize. Because every time we'll go to the declaration of votes, the same issue may arise. We go to the other one, the same issue may arise. What I was then going to suggest is if you agree with me in the proposal I'm making, what we deal with now is the configuration of the subcommittee on review of rules. We deal with the programming committee, and then we defer the issue of the times to parties, to the NA table, reporting to the review committee, and then back to the rules committee. Honorable Majorina?
Yes, Honorable Speaker, I support your proposal, because if you look at this sequencing of motion, if you look at the ANC 7.1, given 4, really it is unfair. So I don't want to come and argue it now here. We are going to deal with that in the subcommittee, because others, they've been better off 3.9 DA to 3, but 7.1 ANC to 4, it is not fair. Thank you. And this wouldn't be alone business.
That is why, order, honorable members, that's why I'm making the proposal. Can we move to the constitution of the Committee on Rules Review? And then we will deal with the programming committee as well. And we bring the issue to a close, because the issue of terminology, as I said earlier, on the majority or an opposition, that is another matter that the review committee must deal with. Mr. Clausen?
Madam Speaker, thank you so much. So my understanding is that both this one and declarations of vote, we just need more consultation. And with your permission, ma'am, we can even use the Chief Whips Forum tomorrow for that consultation. We'll be ready with proposals. Now we're getting to the House committees, honorable members. We are dealing with 3 House committees here. The first one being the Rules Committee itself. We are proposing that because of the new configuration of the NA, the composition of this committee itself must go to the subcommittee on the review of rules to review. So that is the first request we are making. We have suggested a possible rule amendment but we are proposing that it not be dealt with now, but in the subcommittee. Secondly, we are proposing for agreement now in this meeting, the composition of the subcommittee on the review of rules, which will attend to these matters that need review. And our proposal, yes, our proposal is that we have a committee of 9. We're moving from a committee of 8. We had a committee of 8 before. We're proposing a committee of 9. It's this committee, its decisions are really taken by consensus. It's a substructure of the Rules Committee, so it reports to the Rules Committee. Those members who are looking at the Word version is page 12. So the ANC will then have three members, yeah? DA1, MK1, EFF1, and other parties 3. Again, the principle that any member may attend and participate in a meeting applies even in this structure, review of rules. So, Madam Speaker, we are requesting that this committee be established today, this subcommittee. You had indicated, ma'am, that you would also share the mandate of this committee when we get to it. It is rule, hope I'm correct, I'll get to it now. Should be rule 200, yes. The subcommittee may make recommendations to the Rules Committee regarding the proceedings, procedures, rules, orders, and practices of the Assembly, and the development, formulation, or adoption of policy on matters mentioned in sub-rule 1, and perform any other function and exercise any other power assigned to it by the Rules Committee. So those are the powers of this subcommittee on the review of rules. That is our proposal on this one. Should I complete the presentation, ma'am, or pause here?
No, let's pause there. There is a proposal for the subcommittee on rules. And as it has been said, that subcommittee reports to the Rules Committee. Majosi?
No, thank you, Speaker. Firstly, I would like to know, because I can see that in the 6th Parliament, it had 8 members of the subcommittee of rules, and now it's increased to 9 only. Did you consider the fact that even if you would have smaller parties, but now they've increased, it's no longer the 14, it's 18. If you are giving only 3 to other parties, have you thought about it in terms of maybe making it maybe 11 instead of 9? What is the rationale of the 9 when you had 8 members of the subcommittee of rules, when you had 14 parties? But now you have 18 parties, you are only increasing it with 1. My proposal is that we maybe go to 11 so that we allow for the other parties at least to have 5 representations instead of 3. Because now there's more parties and, but the number that it's here is less.
Okay, Honorable Kwahobe,
Speaker.
Honorable Ghana, and Honorable, is it Machodina or Frolic? Frolic, okay.
Thank you, Speaker. I would like to half agree with the proposal. I think perhaps, I know that the work of this committee is highly technical, and obviously you don't want it to be too crowded because you want to be able to work through technical work quite quickly. But perhaps we can look at increasing to 11 as the previous size of the committee. And then we look at how we do it proportionally from there. That would be my recommendation, not to necessarily lump it at the end, but we look at how do we proportionally represent the parties from 11.
Thank you, Ghana.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. So my take was to accept the 9, because one of the things that might happen, the unintended consequence, is that when you actually increase to 11, and you go into proportionality, the parties that then gain is not the small parties. And that's where proportionality is that the parties that gains will be the ANC and the DA in the main. ANC will move to 4 and the DA will move to 2. So the small parties will still remain at 3, even if you and if you go to 15, then it's just the rules committee as a whole. So I think 9 it's a fair number. And the parties that are not listed here, we can get together and see who's best amongst ourselves to be in the subcommittee, because the subcommittee itself does not make the decision. It is this committee that will ultimately have to take the decision. So the recalculation from 11 will not benefit the small parties. That's the effect of proportionality, in that you might think that you are speaking on behalf of the small parties, but in essence, the numbers don't move in that regard. So 9, I think it's a fair number. Thanks very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Frolick.
No, Honorable Speaker, I'm covered by Comrade the Honorable Ghana. He has taken the words out of my mouth. Thank you very much.
Ngumane?
Yeah.
Order.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. We want to know when is the subcommittee going to sit? Because we must know, because we will be making a submission for the revision of Rule 191 and Rule 32, which all implicate our status as the largest opposition party in the Assembly.
Have you already moved on this point?
Yes, we want to know when the committee will sit, because it's what we want to contribute on the rules. Yeah.
I'm also itching that the committee meets sooner.
Okay.
Yeah.
These are the submission we'll be making. That's why I want to know.
See, you are consistent with this matter.
We give you a advance warning so that you know where we're going.
Thank you very much, honorable members. I've already heard that, Sihle, you have already started with the motion to say in the next sitting of the Rule Review Committee on Rules, first agenda must be. Okay, honorable members, can I really persuade all of you that let's agree on 9. As Honorable Ghana has indicated, it does not follow that if we increase to a number 11 or 15, it will increase the number of smaller parties. I think fairly, this committee, its task is to do the work, to come back to the Rules Committee with whatever recommendations that they've decided. And I would really plead Honorable Majosi and Honorable Kwahube that we agree on the 9. Yes, Honorable Majosi?
No, thanks, Honorable Speaker. I think I don't have a problem if we all agree on the 9 members, but I would want to be answered. Because in the 6th Parliament, you gave ANC 3, DA 1, EFF 1, IFP 1, Freedom Fund plus 1, and then you said other parties. But here you are only accommodative of 4. That is why I was asking what was the rationale behind it? So that I do understand, because in the 6th Parliament, you gave 5, but here you are saying 4, and then you are saying other parties.
Okay.
I'm happy to support the proposal of 9, Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Klaso. If you can just indicate why not 5-4?
Thank you, ma'am. Honorable members will notice that previously other parties was 1 from Majosi. Other parties were allocated 1. Now they are allocated 3. So the intention is to accommodate even those other parties that are not accommodated here. Unless the honorable member was.
I don't think you did understand me, Mr. Kaso. I'm saying in the 6th Parliament, you had allocation of 5 parties, and then you said other parties, which means you were giving them 1. This time you are allocating only 4 parties, and then you've got 3 for other parties. That is why I'm asking what was the rationale behind of not using that formula of 5 and other parties. How did you come to that? That is what I'm asking.
Thank you very much, Chair. Maybe in the spirit of inclusivity and harmony, let's just say the DA, the ANC 3, DA 1, MK 1, EFF 1, IFP 1, and 2 on the others. We leave it there. Maybe it will resolve this situation we are finding out there. In that way, you would have consistency from the sixth parliament on having 5, and now you are having 5 and say other parties, instead of reducing to 4. Because the rationale that she is raising is there, that more parties are there. You had 8, but now you are having 9, but you reduce the allocation of parties that are considered large. Thank you very much.
Honorable Ghana.
So I think if we know what has changed. So this what has changed is that there's no, let's call it, no party got 50% of the vote. That has got an implications in terms of the, now you have more smaller parties than we had in the last parliament. So if you try to accommodate them, and if you take the ratios, you'll start realizing that they are a lot more than they were last time. And that's why you'll have, even when you talk of the whips, you have more parties sharing whips than they were in the last round. So if we take that, it does not, what it effectively means, what you are proposing, is that the 12 other parties, the 12 other, or the 13 other parties have to share 2 seats. But then now we've got 14 parties that shares 3 seats. It's a higher ratio than if it's 12 parties sharing 2 seats. I know sometimes when you look at it and say, all right, then Freedom Front Plus might very well come and say, we had 1 in the last time, let's get 1. And then everyone else that's left, which is the 11, now will have to share 1. It's not the right way of arguing when you deal with proportionality and the number side. So now we have got more smaller parties than we had in the last parliament. Thanks.
Thank you. Honorable members, I think we've canvassed this point enough, and I really propose that we agree on 9. If at any particular point we would want to relook at the matter, I will ask that the committee that deals with the work of the rules will then relook at the matter and come back to us. But for now, in order for us to constitute a structure, let's agree on the 9. Can we move on the composition of the programming committee?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We're proposing here page 13 of the Word version that we tweak that role. The ANC, it was the chief whip of the majority party, programming whip, deputy chief whip of the majority party. And we're proposing here that in addition to what you have in Rule 206 A to G, ANC would have 1 more, and then you then have chief whip of the opposition and 2 other members of the DA, MK2, EFF2, and other parties represented in the assembly, 1 each. Basically, this committee consists of all the parties that are represented in the assembly. Everyone is represented, but you had to also take into account that you now have the MK as well, followed by the EFF. Thank you, Madam Speaker. We are proposing that this be agreed to.
Thank you very much. There is the proposal that has been tabled in terms of the composition of the programming committee. But as indicated earlier, Honorable Ngumane had said we would need the subcommittee on rules will have to canvass this matter of the majority party, the opposition party, which might have an effect of the way in which we have conceived the programming committee. But as of now, before that work has concluded, do we agree with the proposal? Mover, seconder? Seconded. Pastor?
Madam Speaker, the last point that we wish to place before this meeting, as Madam Speaker has indicated earlier, is that the terminology and certain definitions in the rules be referred to the subcommittee. That would include matters that were pending at the end of the sixth parliament. So the issue of what is the majority party, what is a leader of the opposition, chief whip of opposition, we propose that the subcommittee immediately be seized with that matter and report back to this committee within 4 weeks from the time its work commences. Coupled with that, Madam Speaker, we propose that when this committee meets, possible next week, it should also decide the chairperson of the subcommittee, because in terms of the rules, the chairperson of the subcommittee must be decided by the rules committee. Thank you, ma'am.
Well, honorable members, thank you very much. The last issue that was being raised is really the agenda of the subcommittee on the review of rules. And we agree that that will be dealt with there. There is nothing in my agenda that says any other business. There's only one announcement, which is not on your agenda, but on mine.
Madam Speaker, I've been requested by the Honorable Chief Whip, Honorable Dolly, that the Chief Whip's forum tomorrow be at 10 a.m. and not at 3 p.m. We thought we would use this forum to make that announcement because it affects most of the honorable members here. The venue is M46 and the agenda will be sent shortly. Thank you. Programming committee, yes, but no, it's all right. It's at 10 o'clock, 10 a.m. And then the program committee will be on Friday, same time at 10 a.m. Thank you.
Where will the programming committee be? Here or
in M46, Madam Speaker.
Okay. Chief Whip's meeting, their forum meeting will be M46, 10 a.m. tomorrow. And on Friday, the programming committee will be in the same venue and at the same time, 10 o'clock. This brings us to the end of the meeting. Meeting adjourned.